So many people talk about sovereignty on the level of, health and wellness, choosing yourself, knowing what you desire, knowing who you are. And it's a very key element if you're wanting to go down a path of financial sovereignty, because you're responsible for making the decisions in your life. You're the person that's accountable for that. This is where we're taking ownership. So when you can look at your health and well-being from a sovereign place, you're able to make these decisions knowing that you are the one that is in control, knowing that you are the only one that is creating your reality. You are the only one that is shaping your future and the future of others. So sovereignty and self-governance, or self-governance in sovereignty, is one of the most important foundations, is one of the most important elements. Self-governance is one of the most important elements of sovereignty, because if you can't maintain and manage what's going on in here, how are you going to maintain and manage what's going on out there? So it all starts. Even look at your house. Your house can be a depiction of what's going on in the internal. If you go to someone's house and it's cluttered and it's messy and it's maybe a little bit dirty, that's a representation of the internal world of the person that's responsible. It's okay if you have a messy house, but we can consciously be messy. I mean, I let my house get messy when I've got the kids. Can't always be perfect and neat and tidy, but it's like I'm proud of my home. I'm proud of my environment. So I keep it clean. I keep it organized, because inside my mind, I'm clean, I'm organized. I compartmentalize my life, and it's because I can self-govern. It doesn't mean I've always got my shit together, but I'd like to think that 99% of the time, 95, maybe 85, 65% of the time, I've got my shit together. Self-governance it's the ability to recognize the self. It's the ability to observe the self, to observe your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your behaviors. You think of the sovereign is the king or the queen. And when the king or the queen are making the decisions, they're not making the decisions that best serve them and fuck everyone else, or that best serve them and completely disregard everyone else. There's a requirement of self-governance in that sometimes we have to choose what's for the greater good to maintain that level of sovereignty, even if it's not something that benefits the self. So in order to be able to self-govern, we have to feel empowered to do so. When we're self-governing, we're overlooking the internal and external world that relates to us. It's like, you are the universe. You are the most important being on the face of this planet. Main character energy. So if you can't self-govern, or if you don't feel empowered whilst ruling your kingdom, what's the point? Main character energy. You're the king. You're the queen. You have the ultimate power to do whatever you want in your kingdom or queendom. So how do you use that power? Do you use it to disempower yourself or others? Or do you use it to empower others? And I think when our internal worlds are looked at and addressed and navigated with ease and grace, and life doesn't become a battle anymore. Life isn't like this uphill climb. Life isn't this uphill climb, like we're trying to get somewhere that we're never actually going to get there, because it's how we are in the now moment that actually matters more. Because how you are in the now moment is what is going to create that future. So when we have a holistic approach to self-governance, we're not just looking at one element of our life, or one area that we're sovereign in, or one area that we're able to nail. We're going to look at our behaviors, our actions, our successes or our failures in all areas and make a determination of, well, how do we want to improve? How do we want to get better? How do we want to have more? How do we want to be, whatever it is that you want to be? So we can look at the emotions, we look at the behaviors, we look at the energy, the frequency. I believe that true sovereignty is high vibration. True sovereignty is having mastery over your emotions, over your vibration, because that's when you realize that the power lies with you. With sovereignty becomes power. When you can self-govern, when you can self-regulate, when you're independent or interdependent. When you're interdependent, you're not relying on external places, people, or things to make you feel a certain way. Lifestyle is discipline. Because when you have the discipline to look after yourself, to do the things that maybe you don't necessarily want to do, but you know that they're for your good, for the better of you, for the good of your soul. They know that they're for your highest good. You might not want to do it. It's like when I wake up in the morning and I don't necessarily want to work out. I don't necessarily want to exercise, but I know that it's good for me. And I know that making that decision to do the thing that maybe I don't feel like doing requires that level of discipline. And when you step into that discipline, you can step into greatness because you're actually pushing the boundaries of your humanness and coming into that power of governance. When you move into sovereignty in whatever area, you require a high level of self-governance and discipline. So someone who's wanting to achieve sovereignty, now it could be sovereignty in your health and wellness, it could be sovereignty within your relationships, it could be sovereignty within your finances. And the biggest problem that you're going to encounter is your external world telling you can't, or your internal world even telling you can't, right? It's the expectation of society telling you that you can't. You can't run 5 kilometers because you're too overweight, or you can't save for that holiday because you've got to pay those taxes, or you can't enforce that boundary in your relationship because you're scared you might lose that person, right? We're scared to do the thing that we think society says we can't do or we shouldn't do, or we won't be loved if we do it. But it's that very thing that's pushing you into greatness. It's that very thing that's going to bring you the success that you're looking for. It's that very thing that's going to create the connection that you desire. Conscious health, right? A lot of people, when they come into the sovereign space, they're really worried about losing their Medicare, right? Because public health, And this is one of the most common questions that we get asked is like, when you go sovereign, do you lose that? And I just want to bring to your attention that the public health system doesn't actually work, or the whole public health system is founded on the basis of profits. So when you look at public health and how easy it is to get a script or a prescription, or to get this test or get to this medication, or to do, are we really healthy? Is the system providing the healthcare services that we actually require? So when you come into self-governance and self-sovereignty, you've got to look at your health choices. And how is that impacting you? How is that impacting your family? How is that impacting your community? And I think when we take that personal governance around what works for us on a health-wise, just because it works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But what works for me might work for other people. So it's on me to share what I do around my health, for instance, how I manage my emotions, how I look after my body, what do I put into my body? We're all going to have different things that work and things that don't work. So it's not about imparting knowledge and wisdom on people to make them do what we do, but it's sharing our knowledge and wisdom to go, hey, this, I found out this, and this is the statistics, and this is what this says. We can get both sides of the fence, and then someone can make a decision on what wants to work for them. Particular practices that are important if you want to maintain a sovereign lifestyle is accountability. Taking accountability and responsibility for the decisions that you make. So if something goes extremely pear-shaped, belly up, and doesn't work, it's no one else's fault but your own. Now, just because we're accepting that accountability and responsibility doesn't mean we've failed. It just means we've learned the lesson. So when we take that accountability and responsibility and we learn the lesson, guess what we can do? Something different next time. So it's constantly being able to assess and reassess, being flexible, being at ease, being open. This is why I say sovereignty is an evolution. It is a journey of ascension because you're coming up into God consciousness. And in God consciousness, there is no right or wrong. I feel like when you come together in a group of like-minded people, there's like this collective energy that just starts wholly building, because it's not just one person that's going to change. It's a group of people that are going to change. And when a group of people start taking action in a different direction, that's where the ripple effects, ripple, 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 ripple. So, we come into the community, and I usually find intention is powerful. That's why I have such strict rules and guidelines around anyone who wants to enter my community, because if I feel like people are coming in to poach or to just sell there's like that sticky, yucky energy, it's like, no, that's not what we're here for. We're actually here for sharing really important information and education and supporting each other. So I do have rules and policies around selling because I just think it's not the space for it. This is a space for learning. But having said that, as the community is growing, I'm seeing these little pockets of people who are like operating in the same industries, and then connections there are forming, and then additional groups are forming. And it's like, this is the power of the people when we get to come together and share information. You kind of got three different groups of people. You've got, on one hand, the group of people that have a very codependent relationship with mummy and daddy, government, and they think that they're there to protect and look after, and they don't see the nature of the relationship and how it's like they're blinded by their love for their country, and they believe that everything is created in their best interest. So they will just blindly do as they've been told, because that's the right way. That's what we've been told, and that's what, right, we're going to go do that. Now, unfortunately, that's probably the group that suffered the most over the last couple of years. Suffered in fear, suffered in projection of anger towards anyone that doesn't agree with them, suffered in effects, side effects, and there's been a lot of people that have suffered. Then we've got the group of people that maybe felt like the information wasn't entirely accurate and weren't sure, but were kind of backed into a corner. So they felt like they had no option. And they had all these different circumstances occurring in their life. They didn't want to lose their jobs. They didn't want to lose their families. They didn't want to have any sort of limitation enforced upon them. They didn't want to be thrown into the naughty boy or girl corner. So they did what they had to do just to save face, even though they questioned whether or not it was the right choice for themselves. And this group has suffered tremendously as well, because they were forced into something that they actually probably didn't want to do to begin with. But it was too hard for them to choose themselves because of all of that social conditioning. And they too have gone without, and they too have suffered loss, and they too have had side effects and impacts. And then we've got the third group on this hand over here, completely opposite end of the spectrum. They were like, no way. I know my body, I know what's right for me, and I'm going to choose what's right for me. And this group suffered greatly as well because they were pretty much condemned and ostracized from the entire community, the outcasts. You don't respect this, all the things, copped so much hate and abuse, rejection, but maintained their level of self-governance and sovereignty in the decision. Now, true sovereignty is every single group. True sovereignty is the power to make the decision and stand by that. Now, I would say probably this hand and this hand were more sovereign. The one in the middle, probably less, because they're making a decision that doesn't serve them. They're choosing for external reasons. Sovereignty can look like anything. Do it or don't do it. But what I ask people, or what I encourage, is that people at least be open to hearing the information and not blindly agreeing to something just because someone said so. Where are you getting that information from? What are you basing your decisions on? This is the critical thinking. I believe critical thinking is a very important element of someone who wants to be able to self-govern. You have to be able to assess both sides of the coin. You have to look at the black and the white, the for and the against, the in and the out, the do's and the don'ts. You have to assess all of it. Sovereignty isn't a one-way path. Sovereignty is being open to all perspectives, the God consciousness, and then choosing what is right for your divine soul. There's different levels of sovereignty though, and you don't have to go whole hog. Yeah, I think like slow and steady wins the race. Not that it even is a race. There is no race. Who are we racing against? Time, maybe. Does time exist? No. So it's just choosing to be sovereign in any moment. It's like, what is your desired outcome? Where do you see yourself going? What direction are you wanting to take? And how can you make decisions that are in alignment with that? You have to go through a process of gathering information, assessing that information, implementing that information, and then that turns into wisdom. But I see a lot of people, they're just sucking up as much information as they can and they're not turning it into wisdom. They might know a lot of things, but it's not practiced. And I think the biggest thing when you're stepping into the sovereign space is actually taking that information and putting it into practice. It's like how protecting your information, privacy is so important. So it's putting privacy into practice. How are you private? How do you embody privacy in your life? Actually, privacy goes a lot further than that. My life is very private. I don't actually openly share with every Tom, Dick, and Harry the inner workings of my private life. Because why? It's private. It's for me. Yeah, privacy. I'm protecting the information of my life, because then I don't need to deal with all the drama and chaos of everyone knowing absolutely everything. We have to have boundaries. We have to enforce this in our life. And it's not just with the government, it's with our community as well. We don't want to have leaky energy everywhere. We have to protect our information. And that could be your financial information. It could be your physical health and wellness information. It could be your relationship information. It could be your professional information. Privacy, we need to embody it, and not just embody it in one area, but embody it in all areas. If you're going to take an element of sovereignty in your finances, you cannot expect that that element is not going to ripple out and affect every other decision in every other area of your life, because it will. If you are following the sovereign path, it will happen. If it's not happening, then you're not embodying this path in its truest nature. Yes, there is an element of fuck the government, we don't want them knowing our information, but it's actually putting those boundaries in place for all areas of your life. Because what is protection? What is security? Secure means to make safe. And if you want to feel safety in your body, you have to be able to self-govern. You have to be able to understand your inner workings, understand what's going on in your reality, and be able to navigate and make decisions from that place of safety. Because at the end of the day, you're self-governing, and the only one that's responsible for that is you.